So I can start off. So for one, thank you for just taking this time to talk to me. So I've heard a lot about you through the Toastmaster International Contest. For some reason, out of all the speeches I listened to, your speech was the one that stood out to me the most. And since I'm also a fellow Toastmaster and I have aspirations of participating in the international speech contest, mine is actually in October for my club. So I'm actually getting ready for that right now. I just want to ask you for some advice and some tips that you utilized when you were participating in a Toastmaster speech. So I guess for me, just to start it off, can you just kind of tell me your process of how you prepared your speech? What were some things that you did differently? Because if I recall, this that wasn't your first time participating in a speech contest, right?
Right. It's my second time.
Like the second time. Okay, okay. So you participated in the two times, and I can guess that you did some things differently compared to your first attempt. So what was your whole process like when preparing your speech?
Oh my goodness. Well, thanks for doing this for me. I appreciate it. And when you all see this probably on YouTube or whatever platform, I'm going back and forth between here and Instagram because I do believe in multitasking and doing two things at the same time. So, yes, I actually competed in a couple of different speech contests. I competed in not tall tales. I did humorous before. I didn't make it very far. I did table topics and I made it to the district level. And did I ever do evaluation? I don't think so. But then I did international speech contest, and that was the one that I was the most excited about. So, hey, DJ Shawnee Beck, yes, I'm in Houston. So I competed for the first time in the international speech contest in 2015. That
Okay.
year was really my first experience with a contest at that level because when we only meet with our Toastmasters clubs, we think really small. We think that, oh, it's a couple of clubs here and there, and it's very local. But once you start getting to these higher and higher levels, you realize how big it is, and you realize how serious people take the competition. I was very arrogant in 2015. I was very green to what was going on, but I knew that I was very talented. So I was led more so by my ego and my arrogance because I knew I was a great speaker, but I didn't have the experience and I wasn't under the tutelage of anyone to even know really what to expect. I was going sheer talent and stardom. So when I prepared for that speech in 2015, I didn't consult with any other Toastmasters. I didn't have a coach or anything like that. I didn't have any guidance from other experienced Toastmasters. I had some mentors who listened to the speech, but they were not Toastmasters. And Toastmasters is a separate culture. Like it's a whole different culture. Just like if you were training for a TEDx speech, it's different from Toastmasters. So I didn't have anybody in that circle to really guide me. So that is kind of one of the reasons why I lost in 2015, because I didn't really know how to prepare. I didn't know where to start. I didn't know, hey, Kim, I didn't know what to expect. And when I lost, I was devastated because I knew I was a great speaker, but I just didn't have that polish and I didn't have that maturity and I didn't have that Toastmasters expertise. In 2018, though, I had a different mindset. I wasn't just competing for the trophy. I wasn't just competing because I knew I was a good speaker. I actually had some intention behind it. Thank you, Kimberly, for the badge. I appreciate it. And I was able to get that experience from a lot of Toastmasters who were already speaking, specifically Larry Sapansky. He really broke down basically the formula of what most world championship speeches look like. I didn't know that before. So getting that insight, I was able to learn kind of the ins and outs of what the speech was going to have to entail for me to even be considered a winner at that high level by the judges. And I went in strictly to learn, grow, and have fun. I wasn't focused on the trophy. And what else as far as preparation? I mean, speech organization and structure, of course. watching those world champion speeches. I didn't do that the first time because I didn't really know about it. I was still new. But this time around, I watched a lot of world championship speeches going all the way back into the 90s and even the 80s. And so that's kind of how it differed. The second time around, I knew what I didn't want to do and I knew what I shouldn't do. And I had more focus on what I should do. And I did it.
Sure. So one thing you said that caught my attention is, we think really small. So for me, this is my second attempt, but I've only went as far to the club level. So from your experience dealing with the club to the division, all the way international, what was something that was different that you noticed that you think is very important for a participant to understand?
Oh my goodness, I love that question. So for all of you watching on Instagram and for all of you who are going to be watching this video, there is a huge difference between the club level and the World Championship of Public Speaking. The biggest difference, in my opinion, is our themes, our speech topics, what we choose to talk about. At the local level, you can talk about things that are, what is the word I'm looking for? Germane to your audience there. You can speak about things that only your culture understands. Like if I lived in Ohio in Cleveland, so I could talk about the Browns, I could talk about Tower City, I could talk about Gordon Park and Public Square and all those things that happen in Cleveland because everybody's familiar. But once you get on that international stage, you have to keep the audience in mind and keep in mind that there are going to be hundreds of people, thousands of people from hundreds of different countries who are going to be listening to this. And if you are talking about things that nobody can relate to or understand, you're going to lose the audience. You're going to lose the crowd. You're going to lose that connection. So choose a universal topic, something everybody can relate to. Do not talk about Christmas. Do not talk about Starbucks. Do not talk about only things that people in your immediate circle or in your immediate area would understand. That's one of the biggest differences. And of course, the size. At the club level, you may be competing against perhaps 5 or 6 people, maybe 10 at the absolute most. Usually it's not even 10. It's like maybe 5 or 7 people competing at the club level. At the international level, you have to have multiple wins over tens of thousands of people. So you have to put on your armor and get in that ring and start boxing because you have to win at the club, the area, the division, the district, and the semifinals. Then you get to go on the world stage. So just the themes and just what it takes to get all the way from point A to point win.
So did you do anything different in terms of preparation? Did you go to different clubs, practice your speech? And also, were you worried that if you practice your speech at different clubs, that maybe some people would take some of the elements and maybe readjust? Because at the end of the day, while we're all trying to help each other, of course, it's also a competition. So were there some worries when you did that?
Well, I didn't take my speech to multiple clubs, but I know a lot of people do. And I didn't want to give away my goodies. Honestly, I didn't want to give away my goodies. But for some people who just want to get the practice in, I definitely say that that's a great idea. What I did do, though, was I went to other district contests to see what other people were speaking about and to see where I needed to polish my skills. And I guess you can call it spying. I call it doing my homework, doing my research. I just wanted to see what else was going on and kind of get a scope of my competitors. And I think that was beneficial to me because I would see other things that the other speakers would do that I didn't even think about. And I don't know if maybe they were coached by someone, but those little small things that you can take away from other great speakers. So
okay. So one thing that you also brought up is you participated in the speech contest originally. You were so disappointed that you lost the first time, right? Devastated, right? Devastated. What was the things you think you did differently from your second attempt compared to your first one that you feel like really helped you stand out against your other competitors?
Oh, so
that's a big question. Let me know, but
I love it. I love it though because these are questions that people probably have. So are you talking about as far as my speech, as far as my mental? What do you?
I would say in terms of your speech in general, were there some things you noticed you
Oh,
did in your first, like basically like a self evaluation? Like you noticed you did this the first time, this may have played a role, and so you made those improvements, and then you did this the second speech way different that you felt like really helped you stand up.
yes. And that was a huge learning point for me. That was a huge teaching moment for me in 2015 with my speech Unbreakable. It was so sad and depressing. It
Mm.
was just drama and sadness and depression. It was a downer. It was a downer. And I never brought the audience back up. At the end of that speech, people were pitying me instead of celebrating me.
Mm.
So I learned to take the audience down that dark road, but then lead them to the light at the end of the tunnel, or the roller coaster effect is what I like to call it. The roller coaster effect. If you bring
Right.
them up, bring them down, but always end up, always end on that high note. You never want to leave the audience sad, depressed, wanted to
Right.
give you a hug at the end. So that's one of the biggest things that I learned. So I took the speech through these different rounds, and I talked about failure after failure after failure, but then I talked about triumph after triumph after triumph, and I talked about victory and how we all can be victorious if we just stay in the ring, instead of saying I dropped out of college 4 times, I got divorced, and I lost the Toastmasters. Thank you.
I
Thank
like
you.
that. I like that. I like that because it kind of relates back to what you said earlier about theme, making sure that you pick a theme that's very universal and honestly something that's a feel good story because you don't want your speech to be so sad where they're like, oh my God, that was just so unfortunate. You want to actually make a speech that's very inspirational, motivational, makes people feel good at the end of the day, right?
Yes,
Oh,
definitely.
I like that. So, in terms of the resources, I know one person you mentioned earlier, and excuse me if I say his name wrong, Larry
Penske.
Sapansky. Thank you, Larry Sapansky.
Right.
Other than him, what were some other resources that you use? So one thing that I'm using right now in terms of resources, of course, is there's some YouTube videos from some coaches who give some feedback on some previous speeches. I know there's some books. There's some people who are preferred trainers within Toastmasters. What were some resources that you utilized to really help craft your speech?
Well, Larry actually gave me a book too. He gave me a book called Paid to Speak, and that had some tips inside of there. And YouTube was a big resource for me, just watching the different world champions of public speaking and watching those winning speeches and looking at the similarities and looking at the differences. So those were pretty much my only resources, the actual Toastmaster, because Larry actually competed and made it to the semifinals several times. So he was a
Mhm.
great resource. And then watching the videos on YouTube, that was great. Reading books about public speaking, that was awesome. And then just drawing from my personal experience and drawing from the failures and the successes that I had on stage previously. Those were mostly the things that I used to help me.
Okay, so and you feel like they really helped you out when you were competing? I don't know if
I
that's the right
do.
word.
No, I do, but at the same time, I feel like when you're a natural at something, you don't have to do too much.
That's real. That's real. I
That's
like
just
that.
the God truth. A lot of people try to pick my brain so much, and I'm like, y'all, it's really not that serious. I try to keep it simple. I don't have a whole lot of, well, in my mind, I don't have a lot of formulas or secrets. I didn't have to trick myself into becoming a great speaker. So I don't have a lot of gimmicks and I guess I don't, not scams, but schemes and ways to, I don't have to force myself to do this. It comes
Right.
naturally. I have to tighten up and sharpen up, but it's hard for me to break it down to a science. Like, how do you be a good mom? Like, if
Right.
you're a natural nurturer, you can't explain it. You like, it's just what I do.
Right. No, I like that. I think that's very important too. Is just once you're just so used to doing it, or you feel like you're natural, you just go with the flow. You don't think too much about it. You don't overreact. You just say, "Hey, this is just something that's normal for me." Just go with what feels right. Essentially, right?
Yeah, I mean, is that how you feel about the career coaching with you? Do you feel like you were natural at it, or you feel like it was something that the skill you developed?
For me, I think it's a mixture of both. I feel like it kind of goes back to something that Cal Newport said in his book. God, I'm so embarrassed. I forgot the name of the book. So good they can't ignore you. Where
Mhm.
basically you find something that you may be interested in doing, and once you do it, you become so passionate or interested in it that you just learn to get good. I feel
Mhm.
like for me, when it came to career coaching, it was a combination of a lot of things because I started during the beginning of the pandemic.
Okay. Okay.
All right. So for me, it was literally because I was looking for a job that I learned a little bit more about career coaching, resume writing, things like that. Especially since I have an HR background, and 9 times out of 10, now that I'm a recruiter, I'm just like, I can make some money off that. So I feel like that's where mine came from. But I just know for me, it kind of involves that element of speaking to people, making it a little bit more fun. Because when I interview people, I don't want them to feel scared when they talk to me.
Right.
I'm the type of person during the interview. I ask you like, "Hey, what you think about Beyonce?" You'll be surprised by some of the reactions I get when I ask you that question. I like Queen Bee. So let me let me ask you this because one thing you said earlier too was you had fun with it, and that's something that I also want to delve into. So I did see a documentary from I forget the name of the documentary from people who participated in the Toastmaster speech contest.
It's called Speak.
Right. And I know someone was talking about just how nervous they were, just the mental stress of, dealing with these speeches. And let's be honest, when you speak in front of a lot of people and you know that this is going to be on media, that can be frightening. So mentally, how did you mentally prepare yourself? And also just what was your thought process during those times when you were going from the club to the division to the district to basically the world stage yourself?
So in 2015, the arrogance carried me through. It was like, duh, why wouldn't I win? I'm gonna win. Okay, boom, I won next. Boom, I won next. Boom, I won next. And that's why I was so crushed when I placed third in the district competition in 2015. That's why I was so crushed because
Okay.
I was so focused on winning. In 2018, however, I didn't put all my eggs in one basket. I didn't get too excited about it. I went in prepared, absolutely, and I went in to do my best so that I could win, but it wasn't like, oh man, win or die, win or die.
Right.
So the nervousness I didn't really have in 2018 until I got to the district level because that's naturally where I lost last time. So you have that little fear on the inside of you, like, man, what if I lose again and I got to go home?
Right.
These people I lost again. So there, when I got nervous, I channeled the energy, and I know this sounds all freaky deaky, but I really channeled the energy of Lashonda Rundles, who was the 2008 world champion of public speaking, the first African American woman to ever win. I think she was the first woman to win in decades. A woman hadn't won before her in many, many years. So she made a lot of history. So she passed away, unfortunately, from lupus. And,
Okay.
and what did she pass away? Think she passed away in 2012. So when I watched her speech, unfortunately, I had to watch her homegoing service to watch the speech. And doing that, I just felt a connection with her. I felt a strong connection with her spirit. So when I did get nervous before the district level, I went over to a tree that was outside of the contest venue and I poured libations for her. I poured libations for her and I asked her to give me whatever it is that she had that made her one, that give me whatever light or face that I need to put on in order to be attractive to these judges and these audiences. And I had picked out a really pretty dress and I went to the restroom and I put my dress on and I talked myself up and I had my own personal party in the restroom by myself and I hyped myself up and I said, hey, you made it this far. You go up there and you enjoy yourself. And that's how I got through the district level in 2018. And that so glad I won. But then going to the world championship stage, it was like, this is my dream. This is my dream as a person who's always wanted to be a speaker. This huge stage and all these people, this is what this is my moment. Like, this is my moment. I've been waiting for this my whole life. That's why when I went onto the stage, I'm like I did that giggle because I was so happy. I'm like, yes, this is where I belong.
I like that. So let me ask you this, because you really give me some very helpful advice as I get ready for my speech. So let me ask you this last question, man. So, and this, I guess this is gonna be also on YouTube and it's on Instagram Live. Other people might participate. What would be some final advice or some big advice you would give to people who want to participate? Like I said, I don't know if this year they're planning to do a virtual or a hybrid model, but either way, for people who's planning to participate in the international speech contest and Toastmaster,
I'm sorry, they're purchasing badges. Thank you so much, Seneca. I appreciate that.
hey,
Well,
but no,
the first thing I would say about competing is when we hear the term world champion, it's very sexy, that term. Like, oh, world champion. Yes, I want to be the world champion. And a lot of people get discouraged when they want to be the world champion, but then they don't make it past the club level. So my first piece of advice would be, don't take it so hard. Use it as a learning experience. Use it to get better. Use it to learn, grow. I always say learn, grow, and have fun. If you win or you don't win, you still win. It's no losses. You either win or you learn. But either way, if you have fun and you don't put all your irons in one fire, like I said earlier, speak or die, don't take it so seriously. That's the first thing. The second thing is be yourself. Be yourself. Don't go in there trying to be Ramona J. Smith or Denanjaya Hederachi or Muhammad Katani or Darren LaCroix or Jim Key or Mark Brown. Like, be yourself. We want to hear who you are. We want to hear your voice. We want to hear your story. So don't take it so hard. Be yourself and have fun.
have fun.
About something that you actually like. Talk about something that you actually want to share that may have to evolve as you ascend through the contest, but talk about something that you really like, that you're really excited about, so that you can pass off that same energy to the judges and to the audience.
Okay, no, this some very helpful advice, and especially somebody who's getting ready to prepare for a speech. Do you give coaching in that regards too?
I give coaching, but it's not free.
Is that free?
Give
Uh,
coaching, but it's not free. I do
yeah,
give discounts to veterans, to non-traditional parents, and to students. I absolutely do. Are you going to
okay.
come again to Saudi Arabia? I was there when you came like 5 years ago. Oh, I would love to come to Saudi again. I enjoyed you, Bill. I'm actually on my way to Abu Dhabi in a couple of weeks, but I don't think that's it's not far from Saudi, but it's not like up the street.
It's about wisdom.
Right?
Yeah, but no, but on that note, and I asked you a little bit more about that coaching off the recording. But that's honestly all the questions that I did want to ask you. I mean, you definitely gave me some real good advice in regards to just creating a universal thing that everybody can relate to, and I think that's very important because since everybody's going to be listening, you need to make sure you say something that everybody can relate to, and also too, just mentality wise, just reminding yourself to have fun and no, don't take it so serious. It's also very important too. So for one, like I said, I mean, I just asked you off of LinkedIn and you were so open to just give me some feedback, and I really appreciate that. So I just
Um,
really want to just thank you again for just taking the time to just give me this advice session.
Thank you. Thank you for doing that. Kim says, I am an amazing coach. Oh, thank you, Kim. This is fun. So I hope that maybe if something else cool happens, maybe we can do this again. And I would love to hear about your experience with your upcoming speech in a couple of weeks.
Oh yeah, no, you'll hear about it because once I'm done, I'll be like, Ramona, guess what happened? But no, sincere, no, I really just appreciate you just taking this time just to talk to me.
Oh, it's no problem. Thank you so very much.
No problem. You have a good one.
You too. Bye.
Bye.